Hey, so does anyone like silent films? Because when we talk about silent films, they are the first films ever made, though didn't really had sound, but music. And the actors would use the expressions to show emotion and dramatic. So let's talk about one of those actors of the silent film era, and they are a ton of famous ones, too, like Buster Keaton or Harold Lloyd. But my favorite silent film actor is none other than Charlie Chaplin, the beloved little tramp. So how about we get into the life and death of the silent tramp? Because something that the card here for Charlie Chaplin is the reason for why his grave is cement shut. But we'll get to that later. Anyhow, let's get on with Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin is an English comic actor. He also was a filmmaker and composer, making music and directing his own films, which a lot of actors commonly did back in the day too, and also today as well. But his full name is Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin Jr. Chaplin's childhood is London. Was one of poverty and hardship, as his father was absent and his mother struggled financially, and he had been put in the workhouse twice before he was ever 9 years old. And when he was 14 years old, his mother was committed to a mental asylum. Chaplin began performing at an early age, touring music halls and later working as a stage actor and comedian. Charlie Chaplin was born in London, England on April 16, 1889, and had gotten his start when he was young in London Music Hall. By the time he was 20, after spending some years in poverty when in the Loughborough workhouse, he became a star performer at the Fred Carnot Company. Charlie's soon rise to world fame had not begun until 1913. However, when he went on tour in New York City in the Carnot tour, a young producer named Mark Sennett had watched Chaplin perform as a drunk, which also was remade in the 1990s film about Charlie Chaplin's life, and it was pretty funny. More on that later. He hired Chaplin and paid him $150 a week, and started Keystone economies that would make the silent slap back on the wheels. The comedies were rough and tumble skits filled with some action, and characters in them with being symptomatic. So Chaplin had developed his role as the little tramp character to complete, with his with his derby hat, baggy trousers, and oversized shoes, mustache, and cane that caught attention of audiences. Even in anime, yes, The Undertaker from Black Butler dresses up as Chaplin in the Atlantic arc. Yes, it was really good. Confused and full of nervous energy with bubbling Beverly, the little tramp represented an average ordinary man whose life consistently had dumped indignities whose basic self-respect enabled him to survive. In 1915, Chaplin had left Keystone for Essanay, where his salary soared up to $1,250 a week. He then moved to Manual Films in 1916, with his salary now at $10,000 million a week. $10,000 a week. And then the First National, which had paid Chaplin with $1 million to make 8 pictures. This was where he started The Kid in 1921 with Jackie Cogan, Hollywood's first child superstar. By 1923, when he helped it form Union Artists Corporations, Chaplin made over 70 films at that point, and included the classics of The Tramp, Easy Street, The Kid, and A Dog's Life. All of them were silent films. When he was at Union Artists, he made The Gold Rush in 1925, City Lights in 1931, Modern Times in 1936, and The Great Dictator in 1940, which had Chaplin making his last biting parody as Adolf Hitler. This was the first Chaplin ever spoke of on film. In the autobiographical Limelight in 1952 was perhaps one of his most memorable films. However, in 1952, while Chaplin was visiting England on vacation, he was told by the US government he could not come back to America. The reasons was for his support in Allied subversive pro-communist causes and his failure to pay his taxes. So Chaplin, with his fourth wife, yes, he had 4 wives, Ona O'Neill, who is the daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill, had moved to Switzerland with their 6 children in 1953. He lived in Vevey until his death on December 25, 1977. Now, Chaplin was able to go back to America some years later before his death, and at the 1972 at Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Chaplin was offered the honorary award, which Robinson sees as a sign that America wanted to make amends. Now, the one thing that the story of America Card does not talk about is when his body was dug up by grave robbers Roman Wardez and Gencho Godnev on March 1st, 1978, 1 year after his death. In this, they used it as a ransom to attempt to extort money from Ona Chaplin. The pair were caught in a large police operation in May, and Chaplin's body was recovered with his coffin that was buried in a field in the nearby village of Neville. It was then reinterred in the Corsair Cemetery in a reinforced concrete vault to prevent it happening again. And so that is the life and death of the silent tramp, Charlie Chaplin. I hope you enjoyed my video going through the story of America Card on Charlie Chaplin. Now, as I said about the drunk scene, I do recommend a movie called Chaplin, which talks about his life and goes into detail, and also Robbery Jr. plays Charlie Chaplin. So if you want to see Iron Man Chaplin, watch the movie. It's really sad and beautiful. And so that's all. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.